Hey, what's going on? It's Jeff Newport from ChasingStrength.com. And in today's video, we are going to answer the question, what's better for your kettlebell workouts, low reps or high reps? So let me ask you another question before we actually answer this question. Have you ever noticed how in the traditional fitness world, the rep ranges seem to be about 8 to 12 or 12 to 20%? And in kettlebell land, as I like to call it, the reps are lower, usually a lot lower, like 1 to 3 reps and 3 to 6 reps. Do you ever wonder which world or which land is right? Well, I think it's safe to say that most of us got our start in strength training with the good old fashioned 3 sets of 10 reps, which is basically a bastardization of the DeLorme protocol developed back in the 1940s. Not that you cared, but I just thought it was interesting. And in fact, everything at that time, at least when I was getting started, was about 3 sets of 10. And it really didn't matter what it was. Then if you're like me, maybe you found out about 1 set of 8 to 12 or 1 set of 12 to 20, and then you progressed over to good old 5x5, popularized by Reg Park and later Arnold Schwarzenegger. Or maybe it was some permutation of the above sequence, right? But the truth is, there's a time and a place for all rep ranges, regardless of the tool. So let's take a closer look, okay? So let's talk about low reps. We're talking about 1 to 6 reps per set, all right? So there are 8 reasons that you would use low reps. So number 1 is you're learning new skills. Number 2 is you're managing fatigue while training those skills. Because remember, fatigue alters mechanics of the movement, and then you start training a different movement altogether. So you're no longer training the one you started out with. Okay. So number 3 is tendon training with very heavy weights. Number 4 is maximum strength training. Number 5 is building smart muscle. And that's muscle that's as strong as it looks, not just big. Okay. In scientific terms, it's called myofibrillar hypertrophy. Okay. Number 6 is training your type 2X and type 2A fast twitch muscle fibers or fast twitch motor units, if you prefer. And that's super important because those are the ones that we lose at a rate of 10% per decade after we crest the ripe old age of 30. Okay. Number 7 is training explosively for power. And number 8 is training for speed. Now, what about the high reps? And by high reps, I mean 8 to 20 plus reps per set. Okay. And there's at least 9 specific reasons that you'd want to use for those. Number 1 is building muscle mass for the sake of building muscle mass, right? That's just the sake of getting huge, like Arnold back in the day, right? And that's called, the technical term for that is called sarcoplasmic hypertrophy. And that's what we see in good old fashioned mainstream bodybuilding. Okay. Number 2 is strength endurance. Number 3 is tendon training. Again, it's a different approach to strengthening the tendons. And these are typically done with very, very high reps, like 100 to 200 reps, and with very light weights. Number 4 is increasing blood flow or circulation and capillary density. Number 5 is endurance training. Number 6 is rehabilitation and restoration. Man, I almost skipped one there. I almost jumped right to number 7. Like 6 is a bad number or something. Maybe it is 666, mark of the beast, number of man, all that good stuff. All right. Anyway, high reps for rehabilitation and restoration. That's number 6. Number 7 is low skill, highly familiar exercises like push-ups. And just a side note here, just remember that every exercise starts out as a relatively high skill exercise, and then many exercises progress into low skill exercises like calisthenics. Conversely, a high skill exercise that's always going to be a high skill exercise is an Olympic weightlifting snatch, okay, a barbell snatch. All right, number 8, low skill single joint training like biceps curls, right? Training the guns and tricep extensions, okay? Number 9 is cardiorespiratory training, which is where you're improving function and health of your heart and lungs, all right? Like I said, these are just the ones I came up with off the top of my head. I'm sure you can come up with some more of your own. But at the end of the day, you probably really want to know the answer to the question that I posed at the beginning of this video, which is better? And the answer is yes, right? They're both great. And it just depends on your goals, okay? For example, I like using very high reps in my restoration and rehab protocols, like the P3 protocol, which some of you may have been using. And if you're not, I highly recommend it if you get some what I call issues you need to take care of. And that's found inside the sore joint solution. And it works like gangbusters for everybody who uses it. Generally speaking, for most strength training and just enough drug-free muscle building, I prefer personally the lower reps because you can keep your technique intact for the most part and accumulate lots of sets, which means lots of mechanical work, which means volume, which is what the research shows us builds muscle, okay? And that works exceptionally well when you're working against the clock. That is to say, if you've got a fixed time period. to train, like 20 or 30 minutes. Interesting, it's also really good for burning body fat, depending on how little or how much rest you're using. Furthermore, as you become more skilled in a lift, the more familiar it becomes to you. I mentioned a little bit about that earlier. So the more reps you can do, and you can surf that rep continuum, right? From 1 to 6. And sometimes you can even move into some of the higher rep ranges, like 6 to 10, 6 to 12. All right. So case in point, one of my programs, Kettlebell Max and Warm, has you doing sets of 6 and 7 reps with your old 5-rep max clean and press, starting in week 8, and multiple sets of 10 with your snatch 10-rep max in week 12 in order to build strength, muscle, and burn fat while improving your conditioning. And yeah, it's a 12-week program. All right. So as you can see, low reps or high reps, the answer really just depends on your goals. Generally speaking, though, for most who are novice and intermediate kettlebell users, I recommend staying in the 1 to 6 rep range and just building up your skill and capacity by adding more sets per exercise and per workout. All right. So hopefully you found that helpful. And if you need a new kettlebell program, want to try something different, I'll leave links to some of my most popular programs in the description below this video. If you found this video helpful, please click the like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and share it with a friend, right? Because sharing is caring. All right. Until next time, my friend, stay strong.